Well, I'm always delighted to spend time with today's guest. Jeff Hyman is a four-time CEO who raised $55 million in venture capital and served as operating partner for one of Chicago's preeminent PE firms. He's an award-winning PE and VC headhunter, professor at Kellogg School of Management, and author of the best-selling book, Recruit Rockstars. His simple mission? To recruit rock stars and teach others to do the same. Jeff began his recruiting career at Heidrick Struggles and Spencer Stuart, the preeminent global executive search firms. Today, he's Chief Talent Officer at Chicago-based Strong Suit Executive Search. With that brief intro, welcome back, Jeff, to the ExecuNet stage. They are all yours.
Tony, it's always great to be on. Can you hear and see me okay?
You are great.
Terrific. Well, thank you for having me and inviting me to join, and I look forward to this hour together. I've been asked to speak today specifically about how to find your next role in a private equity or venture capital backed company. And it's a very unique type of company, so it requires a very unique search strategy. And so that's my intention, is to take you through that today. As Tony mentioned, I love Q&A. I'd love to make it as detailed and as long as you want. So we'll do that towards the end of the session. So feel free to type your questions in the chat box as we go, and we'll get to those at the end. I'm not going to go through my whole history again because Tony just did it. Thank you, Tony. But I think what's most relevant is that I have led 4 businesses, raised a bunch of VC money, exited from a number of those businesses, sat on the boards of venture capital backed companies, and also served as an operating partner for a $6 billion private equity firm here in Chicago. So I've been in and around this stuff for a couple of decades. I've seen it from a lot of different angles, and also spent time at big companies such as Black & Decker. And so I'm able to kind of compare and contrast what's different. And so that's my intention to do that for you today. I have one goal, which is to give you an unfair advantage. And I say that because as a headhunter, which is my full-time day job, I can tell you that most people go about this exactly the wrong way, almost making every mistake in the book. So if you just stick with me, you'll learn some of the things that I think can give you an unfair advantage and set you apart, really differentiate you from the pack. And remember, you don't have to outrun everyone, you just got to outrun the bear, right? So that's our goal today, is to show you how to do that. I'm going to start with something that will lead us right into looking for roles at PE and VC firms. And that is that you need to know where you stand today. We are in uncharted waters, uncertain times. And while I'm very optimistic about our long-term future, I am relatively pessimistic about our economy in the near term. And I will define that as 1 to 3 years. And so as you think about making any change in your career, you should always know 2 things. You should know your cash burn rate for your company. If you are at a company that has 3 months of cash in the bank, that company is about to fail or be acquired for nothing. And so you need to think about how likely it is that you're going to need to make a move if your company is not doing well. You need to know the cash burn rate and the balance sheet strength of your company. And if you don't, shame on you. It's your responsibility. At the same time, you need to understand your personal cash burn rate at the household level. And that varies for a lot of people, right? Some people are a month away from trouble, and others have a rich uncle they can count on, and others have won the lottery. So you need to understand your burn rate, and that will tell you how selective you can afford to be and how your risk profile plays out. And I say that because venture capital and private equity companies are all about risk. Many are small businesses or mid-sized businesses. So how can you possibly make the move until you understand your starting point? So you've got to understand those 2 things. And as I said, because I am relatively pessimistic on our economy for the next 3 years, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm pessimistic about your ability to find a job. Those are 2 different things, right? I'm optimistic about the stock market. I'm optimistic you can find a great job, but I'm pessimistic about many sectors of the economy. So you got to plan for that scenario. and think about your current company's situation. Also think about any company you might join over the next month or quarter or year. And imagine a scenario where their revenues decline 40%. That is a very likely possibility. Now, obviously, with restaurants and many, it's down 100%. With airlines, it's down 85%. But if you don't have a number in mind, just imagine if your company or the prospective company's revenues kind of got cut in half, what would happen? And if the answer is they'd be in trouble, then you want to think twice about joining that company or staying. A lot of candidates ask me these days, if I have a job, should I stay put? And I would basically say yes. That's not something I've ever said before in my 25 years of recruiting. But if you're in a reasonably tolerable role, meaning you could still sleep at night and the income is reasonable and the company is in solid footing, meaning the balance sheet strength is there, I would recommend you stay put. It's not the time to make a change. Now, if the company is in trouble or you're miserable or you hate your boss or something else, then yeah, you got to make a change. But for the first time in 25 years, I would say if you can find a safe port in this storm, a storm unlike any you've seen before and any that any of us will see again, this is probably a reasonable time to stay put. Now, all that said, it's because of this. You saw the movie Titanic, and what happens is there is a last person in, first person out approach. If you join a company that runs into trouble, there is a very high probability you're going to be one of the first ones cut. I've seen this movie before, too many times to count. And as soon as you get cut from that company, you're going to join another company, and you're going to be one of those people, one of those people that has 6 short-term stints on their resume, and it's not a position you want to be in. So think 2-3 times before making a move. But if you decided you want to make a move, then you're in the right place, because as Tony said, we're going to talk about how to find it in a private equity or a venture capital backed company. And I'm going to talk about why to do it, why not to do it, and also take apart some of the misconceptions. And then we'll get right into kind of how to go about it step by step. And it's not for everyone, but there's a bunch of reasons to get excited about doing this. And one of the big ones is that you want to fish where the fish are. And while many big companies are encountering a lot of trouble right now, many smaller companies, growth stage companies, are innovating their way through this pandemic. They're developing new products, new services, new approaches, and their businesses are on fire. And I'll point to Zoom video, which you're familiar with. And yes, that's a public company, but their business is up 5-10-fold. Now that's a rare exception, but it's happening in many, many sectors, and I'll give you some examples in a moment. So when you're looking for a job, you want to look where the jobs are, and there are thousands of venture capital and private equity companies that are in good shape. And here's some data. So there is $2 trillion that private equity firms are sitting on, trying to put to work by investing in and acquiring companies.